from the beginning, what kinds of signs did you guys notice initially leading up to the diagnosis?
She lost her pocketbook at church all the time and accused people of stealing. We had to go find it. It was one of the big symptoms.
Losing her keys.
Her keys.
Could never find her keys. Always lost her keys.
And then you tell them about when you was staying with her, Sherry.
Yeah, I moved in with her for a couple of weeks and noticed she got talking to me, wanted me to balance her checkbook and help with financial stuff, and that was a big sign right there.
Or there was the time when we were having hot dogs. All the family was together. And she said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Mama, you can boil the wieners." We were boiling them then. We didn't grill them. And she stopped and she looked at me and she said, "I don't know how to do that."
Okay. So, to y'all's knowledge, any family history of Alzheimer's?
No, not before she was diagnosed. And her parents lived to be in their 80s, and I don't remember either one of them ever having dementia.
So the initial reaction to the official diagnosis, what was that like for both of you guys and for Granny? Did she really have an idea of what the diagnosis meant? Did you guys really know what to expect?
Catherine and I took her for the neurological exam. And after we left, Mama made no comments to the doctor. She asked no questions from the doctor, no matter what he told her or what he said. So as we left and we were in the car, we were driving down the road, I said, "Mama, did you understand what the doctor told you and what it meant?" And she said, "Yeah, it means I'm going to go crazy eventually." And she never mentioned it again. We never talked about it. Did she ever talk about it with anyone of you two?
Y'all asked about it one time though when you had to take her car keys and she was so mad. Or we had somebody anyway. She was mad with y'all about something, and you said, "Mama, remember what the doctor said?" And she said, "I don't know what you're talking
She
about."
told me she could drive as good as that doctor.
She sure did. And she just never said anything, and it bothered me that I didn't know if she was internalizing and just couldn't say anything.
What about you guys? Did you guys kind of know what you were about to?
No, not had an idea. Yeah, but not, and also, I guess I never thought long term either. You know, that this is going to be a long journey. As long as it was. After the diagnosis, it was 21 years.
Okay, so moving forward, how did you guys, as her children, decide on a plan? And what was your plan?
When she started hearing somebody at the door ringing the doorbell at night, and even the deputies checked and watched the house and said there's nobody ringing the doorbell. Well, we tried undoing the doorbell, but she got on to that. But anyway,
She was a smart cookie.
eventually we moved the lady in to come and stay with her in the evenings and give her supper and spend the night, and she'd get up and go home the next morning. And we did that for several years, 2 or 3 years. And that worked okay. And then we checked on.
But she would stay alone during the daytime. So, but that did work well. And after that, we as a family came together and we decided what our plan would be. And we, as a family, devised a plan. And you tell them what the plan is.
Well, basically, we all decided what part of the land we were going to buy. Mom and Daddy had a good bit of land, and we split it up, and we decided who was buying what and for how much. And that went into a pot to take care of Mama financially.
With a full-time caregiver. And then after that money was exhausted, she and Daddy for years had purchased savings bonds at work. And of course, as long as they'd had them, they started that in the 70s, so they were worth a lot more than the face value at that time. So that enabled us to continue for 11 years. This one little lady, sweet little lady, would stay with Mama from Sunday to Friday, and then of the 6 of us, every 6 weekend was our turn to take care of Mama. Our brothers, we have 3 brothers, and our brothers were adamant that Mama would not go to a nursing home. They were adamant. And so Catherine and I had been primarily taking care of her up to that point when that meeting occurred. And we would take turns, and she and I shared the responsibilities of Mama and everything. We were in and out. But anyway, she and I did it primarily. But we had that family meeting, and once again, my brothers were saying, Mama's not ever going to a nursing home. And finally, Catherine and I had to say, we're okay, we agree with you, but we cannot continue to be the primary caretakers. Well, one brother, he said, make us a schedule. So for 16 years, we followed that same schedule.
Make that calendar every year.
They knew a year in advance. We'd do it a year in advance, so everybody knew what holidays and everything. So that's how we worked that, to be able to care for her and keep her at home as long as we could. We made forms, y'all. We had to sign all these forms.
Yes, we did.
Everything you did, you had to document it.
What she ate.
What she ate, when she had a bowel movement, we kept up with all that stuff.
You had a notebook that you wrote in every weekend.
Yeah.
So
This
that
is what
whoever,
happened.
this is what happened. This is the good stuff that happened, even the bad
Yes.
stuff that happened.
And I asked the director of nurses when we met her, I said, would you like a copy of our forms? And she looked at me, she said, we have our own forms.
How long did you keep her at home?
Until a month before she died.
So basically 21 years.
The only reason we placed her was because I was getting ready to have a hip replacement. Kevin possibly had to have a hip replacement. Mitchell was going to have a knee replacement or something. Yeah. So that meant we'd be down to 3 people taking care of Mama, and you really can't do it with 3 people. And there's so many resources out there. I guess when she fractured her hip is when they told me about community long-term care. That was the greatest resource for us, because they would provide supplies and things of that sort that Medicaid reimbursed for. So it really worked. In fact, when Mama went through that episode after she fractured her hip, and they told Dr. Parrish told me I needed to call hospice. I called hospice. I said, help me to understand what services you provide, and Their services were nothing comparable to what community long-term care provided.
And then we tapped into the Meals on Wheels.
That's right.
Meals on
So
We
we
did.
had a hot meal.
Yeah, it's not really Meals on Wheels.
That's for
It's
seniors.
food for the elderly or
and-
something like that program.
Yeah.
And they would deliver, and they also brought the caregivers. She signed up too. So both of them got a hot meal at lunch from that.
Yeah.
And so that worked really well to supplement her food. And then, of course, eventually we had to start giving her Ensure or Boost or something like that to supplement. When I think about it, it was a privilege to take care of her.
Yeah.
It really was. We didn't have to wonder if Mama was being taken care of. We didn't have to wonder what was going on with her, because we all knew. We could read that little note and we knew what was going on. And so it was really a privilege to be a part of that.
Were there any interventions that were done throughout the progression to try and manage the disease itself, or some of the issues?
Initially there was.
Okay.
The neurologist started her on, I think it was Aricept, I'm not sure, it's been so long ago.
I think it was.
And she took the 2nd dose and called me, and she said, I am so sick. I am so sick. And I went, and her abdomen was swollen, and I took her to her family doctor. And they told me that if I would give her some Benadryl with the medication, that she probably could tolerate it.
She could have done
But the Benadryl would knock her out, and she'd sleep all the time. So I talked to some of my siblings, and we made the decision that it wasn't worth it to decrease her quality of life by giving her a medicine that was going to make her sick.
Yeah.
And so we chose not to give it to her.
So I know you guys have kind of already touched on what the progression was like, but are there any other like specific moments that
I think we had many years where things were kind of status quo. She and the caregiver kind of were in their routine. Everything was going okay. On the weekends, we'd even take her to church. until she became so agitated at church, we made the decision to stop that. We also, along the way, at some point, we decided to quit taking her for her Friday hair beauty shop visit because the blow dryer bothered her, the noise bothered her, everything bothered her. So but she was not incontinent.
Not
initially.
for a while.
No.
Not for a while.
So but that's right. To prevent her from being incontinent, we had a schedule where we took her to the, put her on the potty or took her to the bathroom every 2 hours. We just did it. Whoever was staying with her would do that. We'd just take her to the bathroom. And so consequently for many, many years, we avoided having to put diapers or Depends or whatever on her. So we were able to manage that way. But then the major change came when one night she fell out of the bed and fractured her hip. And of course she had to go to the hospital. She had surgery. And then the hospital made the decision to send her, the doctor made the decision to send her to rehab. And of course when I talked, or we, I don't know who all talked to the rehab nurse, she said, "What is your expectation of rehab?" And I said, "My expectation is that she will be ambulatory. The other things she can't do, but she was ambulatory prior to falling and fracturing her hip." We get to rehab in Florence. The first day, they were trying to teach her how to put her clothes on. Then they were trying to teach her how to put a puzzle together.
Yeah, that was just a pure mess.
My sister said, "Would you please come teach me how to transfer her to the commode chair?" And the person that she was talking to looked at her and said, "Why? She's got a diaper on." So my mama stayed in Florence 2 weeks after we met with the director and everything and informed them that they should be thinking rehab from beginning inside the door until you leave, instead of 1 hour a day you go downstairs and they try to teach you all these other things. And the day I was with her in physical therapy, I said, "Y'all aren't even working on her being ambulatory," but it was almost like they didn't know how to work on it. I mean, that was not a concern of theirs. And I thought, this is just crazy that she's here. And of course, we finally met with the director and we said, "Send her home. We can do more at home than y'all have done here." And our caregiver was so wonderful. She would, try to walk her every day and things of that sort. But as far as regaining all of these other skills, Mama was beyond doing that. She was really beyond. It was past the time. She did break a tooth, and I took her to the dentist, but she was in no pain, none whatsoever from that broken tooth. And I asked him what he recommended, and he said, "It's been my experience that people with dementia don't have pain. They don't experience a lot of pain." And he said, as long as she's able to, and she was eating and drinking, so we felt like, why? That, she was in no pain, nothing was happening, so just leave it alone. Yeah. Along those same lines, we would always give her the influenza vaccine every year. The last time I took her, which was probably about 3 or 4 years before she died, she had her last influenza vaccination. Because I took her and she cried because she had nothing, no muscle. And I told them, I said, "Y'all get your flu vaccine every year because I'm not giving it to Mom anymore. I am not going to put her through that because she doesn't understand." She just didn't understand. And y'all, she never had a cold. She never got sick.
She didn't get sick. She did not.
She never got sick.
She didn't get sick.
And so we were so careful around her to be sure we didn't carry any germs to her and that kind of stuff. The time finally came when she no longer would verbalize anything. She wouldn't say a word. And no matter what we said to her, she'd just smile or whatever. But she just quit speaking.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, if within probably the last 3 years before she died, one night I went in and I spoke to her, and she looked at me and she smiled and she called my name.
Every once in a while, it's
Yes.
like she came back for just a split second. You would.
So, just overall, what would you say that your personal experience with Alzheimer's has impacted you personally?
One thing I remember though about it, especially when I stayed on the weekends, is the loneliness for the caregiver.
That's right.
It's so, but they're not talking to you, you're trying to look after them and all this, but it's just so lonesome. It's just so lonesome.
Well, even before she quit speaking, she
Yeah.
would get angry with you when you do things to her. And you begin to feel like, well, darn, I'm sacrificing my weekend, and you don't appreciate it.
Yeah,
But I mean, we all knew she couldn't appreciate it, you know.
yeah.
But you're right.
We knew it
Loneliness
was
is a big
disease, but
thing.
it was still not easy.
Yeah.
I know she slapped my glasses off one time while I was washing her feet.
Uh-huh.
Slapped my glasses across the room.
And we did see that with her. She did target certain ones of us. Oh, I wanted to share one more thing.
Okay.
Mama was 70 when she was diagnosed.
Okay.
So when I was 70,
That's right.
I started looking for signs, and my brothers have done the same thing. And I know we all will do that.
When I get 70, I'm going to do it.
Don't you? But you do
You
think about it.
You do.
You truly do think about it. And so that's always in the back of your mind.
Is there anything else, any other comments that you guys feel is relevant for people to know?
I went to a seminar that they held at Tech when I worked there, and it was helpful to me. One thing I remember the most they said was, don't ask them, or say, you remember that, don't you? Don't you remember that? Don't say that to them. And the other thing was, they're always wanting to go home, go home. They're not looking for a physical place. They're looking for a place that's familiar to them, a place that they feel comfortable, but they can no longer find it.
Yeah.
I think that was two important pieces of information that I learned.
I think in retrospect, I wish I had known then more about Alzheimer's and that kind of stuff, even before we saw the neurologist. Maybe we would have been more aware of what things to look for. So a lot of what we did for Mama, we learned along the way.
Yeah.
We learned by trial and error and that kind of stuff. And I would probably say to families that you need to work as a team to be able to care for your loved one. And that's the only way you'll get through this.
And if you don't have someone in your family with some medical knowledge, a nurse or whatever, find a friend that can be an advisor for you.
That's right.
Because that was invaluable that we had that.
But you learn along the way. You learn some things you need to do, what they like and dislike, and you learn how to make adjustments. And that's what we did.
I think Nancy Reagan said it was a long goodbye.
It
And
is.
definitely it was.
It is. You slowly lose them.
Mhm.
You slowly lose them.